So, Michael, you are the security guy at Mozilla. Previously I knew there were lots of various people who have kind of sort of assumed and done that role as an adjunct to their business, to their job, or as their main role. Just give me a little bit of color as to what it is you do on a day-to-day basis and what that's all about.
Sure, yeah, and there's actually quite a few security guys, so to speak. We have a nice culture at Mozilla where security and privacy is kind of in everyone's minds.
Yeah.
But briefly, I run the security assurance team. So we have a team of a handful of individuals, actually many individuals around the world, that focus on security throughout the life cycle of everything we do. So from Firefox to Firefox OS to web apps to servers, even to the desktop machines we use. We make sure that everything we do from development, deployment, and ongoing maintenance is secure and free of bugs, so to speak.
Got it. So this is both in terms of your development infrastructure and what goes out to end users like me.
Exactly, the full stack, from 1 to 7, or we could say 8 to the user.
You know, just taking both sides of that equation. When you got there, what was the infrastructure security story like?
Sure. When I got there, I was actually part of the infrastructure security team as that was being created.
Yeah.
And I built up the web security program to focus on the web apps.
Yeah.
And since then, we've matured as Mozilla's grown into new areas and grown that team into a robust assurance team that includes both product, web apps, servers, and end users.
So what sorts of, what's the process, we'll talk about it both sides, but just for the infrastructure side, what kind of audit controls dashboard do you have to measure to make sure that the Mozilla infrastructure for developers, which is distributed globally, is actually safe and secure?
Sure. Yeah, we have a dedicated operations security team that focuses on those things. It goes through, as you'd expect, the best practices, making sure we have patches, looking for critical issues there, but also working with, when we design a new service like Sync, working on making sure the architecture is a multi-tiered approach with appropriate DMZ, fail-safe, so if there's an issue in one area, it's contained. So we're actually going through more than just the basic steps and doing a lot of design work to make sure we're fundamentally building things securely too.
Because I know it's always a bad thing to say, oh, we bolt on security afterwards, and I know that's never been the Mozilla way. So how is that baked in from iteration to iteration as people commit code into trunk?
Definitely. The security lifecycle is something I'm pretty passionate about, near and dear to my heart. We subscribe to the thinking of pushing security left, so pushing security earlier in the life cycle whenever possible.
Yeah.
And so what that means is we do a lot of threat modeling and whiteboard sessions when we're building a new feature. So are we fundamentally building this correctly? Because you don't want to find at the end that your foundation is flawed and you have to start over. So that's one step: threat modeling, architecture design. We have code review and tools to help identify flaws when the code's actually being written.
Yeah.
And then also, after code is released, we have the bug bounty program. So that last kind of step where, if something made it all the way through, let's work with the community to find bugs, report those, and fix those as quickly as possible.
When I see any given Mozilla Security Advisory, there's always one for memory, safety, something. It's just called miscellaneous JavaScript, memory, corruption, potential issues. And that seems to be in every cycle. Why is that? And is that just one of those things because it's C and it's not a type-safe language, et cetera, it's always going to exist?
Yeah, we do a lot of ongoing fuzzing work. You might have heard the recent announcement for Peach. That's one of the many fuzzers we use: Peach, JavaScript fuzzing, a variety of others. And through that constant iteration and testing, we will proactively find issues. And then we go ahead and fix those internally, roll them out. Now, users never heard of them. They were never at risk because no one else discovered them. Yeah. But we still put them in the advisories to be as transparent as possible. And so that's kind of what that generic item is.
Got it. Because then going half a step further, whenever I see the researchers come out at Ponto and they pop Firefox, inevitably it's always a use after free memory issue, which may or may not have been part of some other kind of memory corruption or memory abuse issue. What sort of safeguards, and just half a step further, I know the Google guys have submitted half a dozen bugs to you this year alone. Memory safe issues after free were they found with address sanitizer, if I'm not mistaken. Aside from benefiting from Google's generosity there, what sorts of things are you doing to help that? What other fuzzing tools or other are you using there?
Yeah, the Pondone conference or event is interesting, as I think all browsers got popped last year.
They always do. And it amazes me because I talked to all the browser vendors before, and they always put out releases before, and there's still something.
Sure. I think everyone admits it is a challenging problem with security, and it's a continual effort where we work together. One of the nice things we found is when something happens, how quickly can you respond?
Sure.
Pondone was an event where we were able to respond within 24 hours. I think actually the fastest of all browsers, which is pretty cool. But regarding the fuzzing activities, We're constantly iterating on that. We have a team of fuzzers that are building new types of fuzzers for new uses. Back to that Peach one, we're actually using that a lot for HTML5. So new features that are coming out to keep fuzzing those.
Sure.
And we started working with BlackBerry to share that knowledge. The submissions from Google are just a representation of one of the many we get from the community. And we get 50 to 70 different security researchers every year helping through the bug bounty to submit those issues to us. And again, another opportunity to fix.
Sure.
But if you look at the track record overall, we haven't had many issues in the last several years where there's been an exploitable Firefox issue that's put users at risk. And we're actually doing pretty good in that space. So a lot of the advisors you see are proactive efforts to make sure we don't go into that other area.
Got it. And then across the various platforms, and I'm baiting you here, so I'm warning you, whether it's Windows, Linux, or Android, because I'm going to assume Firefox OS you can control from the ground up, are there operating system side issues that complicate your life on any one of those particular platforms?
I think the biggest thing that we're thinking of is we just want to make sure to work to take advantage of the security controls and abilities in the operating systems. So I wouldn't say there's any large problems per se that are holding us back, just making sure we're taking advantage of it.
What's the security story at this early stage with Firefox OS? I would assume since you can do it from the ground up, you've had the opportunity to put a lot more input even on the operating system side.
Yep, we're definitely working on a lot of really interesting areas of Firefox OS. I think one of the biggest areas is around user control of data and the permission law. We really believe that in other operating systems right now, the user doesn't understand the permissions they're giving them at install time of a new app.
And even if they do, they don't have a choice, right?
Exactly. So we have adapted a model where the user is prompted when the data is needed within the app that's running, and the user can decide at that point if they want to give away access. So a good example is if you're searching for a restaurant in the nearby area and the app asks for GPS, that makes perfect sense. But if you have just completed a level and want to go to level 2 and it asks to access your contact book, you probably want to say no to that. That's very fishy. I don't want to do that. And perhaps you want to report it as a suspicious app for further after.
In your line of work, given all the different challenges that you have, both operational and technically dealing with journalists and other things, what's the biggest challenge right now?
I think the biggest challenge in security that other people will echo, or they will echo eventually, is dealing with security at scale. Any individual security issue, we do a pretty good job at figuring out the solution, but the difficulty of pushing that through millions of lines of code or many different users, ecosystems, etc., makes it challenging. But the biggest thing is to recognize that and continue working towards those challenges. And the other thing that we found that really helps that is being transparent and open. The elements that make Mozilla what it is really benefit from security. We can talk about these issues, we can get partners, get the community, and get the brightest minds to try and tackle these problems.
Got it.